Cher monsieur, c'est avec beaucoup d'humilité, beaucoup d'admiration que je vous remets ce prix destiné à votre père, qu'il a énormément mérité et dont nous ferons en sorte que personne n'oublie jamais son combat.
Thank you very much, Maître. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear distinguished guests, let me start by thanking you all for being here. I would like also to thank Alkarama and its staff for organizing this great event, for all their hard work and support for my father and all other human rights defenders in Syria and around the Arab world during the past year. I thank you for selecting my father to be the 2010 laureate of Alkarama Award for a lifetime dedicated for protecting the rights of all Syrians. It gives me a great honor to stand here today in front of you to receive this award on behalf of my father, Mr. Maleh. On this day, December 10, 2010, the International Day for Human Rights, my father, Mr. Maleh, who is considered the father of the human rights movement in Syria, has been sitting in a prison cell in Damascus for more than a year. Mr. Maleh celebrated his birthday recently away from his family, his wife, his daughter, 3 sons, 3 granddaughters, and 3 grandsons. You've seen one of the granddaughters in the picture here. He started his 80th year of age in prison because, according to the Assad regime, he was spreading false news that could weaken the national morale. A regime that has been killing Syrians for speaking out, imprisoning them, and sending them to exile, regardless of their age, sex, or religion, worries that my father's words are what is weakening national morale. This is a man who spent his life fighting for his country and for his fellow men, regardless of their age, sex, religion, or national origin. Mr. Maleh uses the utmost of his skills as an attorney to defend the rights of anyone without discrimination, and that's why you will not find 2 people arguing over his credibility, his fairness, and his straightforwardness. Everywhere I travel, I meet people by chance in different parts of the world who tell me stories about how they got to know my father and how he touched their lives. He is a hero to many. When I refer to him as my father, they tell me he is not only your father, he is the father of all Syrians. This man stood up for what is right. It did not matter to him how much it would cost him. The first time he went to prison for what he believed was in 1951. Then under the Assad regime, he went to prison again, spending 7 years in prison in the 1980s for fighting for the human rights of all his fellow countrymen and countrywomen. The Syrian Bar Association threatened to freeze his pension, and he faced further disciplinary action against him by the Syrian Bar Association to disbar him for 3 years for talking to the media about some of the human rights cases he was defending. He faced 2 military tribunals in 2002 and 2005, and he has not been allowed to travel outside the country since 2004. Finally, last year, on October 14, 2009, Mr. Maleh was abducted by the Syrian regime after he gave a TV interview. The state forced his disappearance for almost a week. When he appeared again, it was in front of military tribunal, which sentenced him to 3 years. This was his 3rd military tribunal, even though he's a civilian who never served an army in his life. They think they can silence a man such as my father, but I guess they failed to learn from their previous mistakes. My father came out of prison in 1987, more determined than ever to fight for the human rights of others until there is no prisoner of opinion left in Syria. My father will come out of prison again by the will of God, stronger than before, and he will continue his mission in life. My father is considered to be the oldest prisoner of opinion in the world. But Syria holds another world record because Tab al-Mallouhi, the 19-year-old blogger imprisoned since December 27, 2009, is considered the youngest prisoner of opinion in the world. I can say that we have an equal opportunity human rights abusing regime in Syria. Yet, Western nations that brag about protecting human rights, and in specific the human rights defenders, like my father, is dealing with this criminal regime as if it is the legitimate ruler of Syria. It is not. Let the future show that the West is placing its own narrow interests over human rights by supporting yet another criminal regime, just as bad as that of Saddam Hussein's, against the rights of the people tyrannized by this regime. Mr. Haytham Maleh is not afraid of death, and he is not afraid of prison. Having experienced it 3 times already, Mr. Haytham Maleh broke his fear factor. So there is nothing to stop him again. The Syrian regime can keep arresting him, and Mr. Haytham Maleh will come out every time stronger and more determined than ever before. Thank you.